Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn goal setting workshop with Seed&Spark and the light leaks. We can jump into our land acknowledgement. We're ready to set goals. What a day to set goals. Before we kick off things, we'd first like to acknowledge the land we are all on is occupied territory. Please check the YouTube live comments feed for a link to a First Nations COVID relief fund in an amazing app that will tell you exactly whose land you are currently watching from, or in the video description if you're watching this as a VOD. I am coming to you from the land originally belonging to Jamanos, Tonkawa, Coahuiltecan, and Comanche. And I myself am Meghan Ross. I'm the head of creator success. And here with me is Bri from the Seed&Spark side, our film community manager, and the founder of Light Leaks, Kim, who's also joining us as a partner today.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for joining. These are all of our headshots. Our faces when we're not moving look like that. Non-video faces. And Bri's going to kick things off for our goal setting workshop, and then Kim and I are going to share some of our goals along the way.
Yeah, I mean, first, Kim, you want to introduce yourself and the Light Leaks to our community who might not have heard of you? For those of them who aren't here exclusively for you, which I know many are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Hoyos. I'm based in New Jersey, and I'm a filmmaker and digital strategist. I started a company called The Light Leaks in my junior year of college because I wasn't finding many spaces in the classroom or online to connect with female and non-binary filmmakers. So slowly that editorial site ended up warping into a small business that hosts events both online and virtually now because of COVID. And recently I've brought on a volunteer team of about 11 creatives who are all working on the site with me now. And it's all basically for the empowerment, education, support of female and non-binary filmmakers. And then we live out that mission in a lot of digital community-oriented ways.
Yeah, awesome. Like partnering with us. So
yes.
From that whole spiel, I'm sure it's very clear why we work with Kim. Also, she's just a very cool person. So I'm glad to have you here. And Meghan, thanks for bringing this all together. So yeah, let's kick it off. So for those of you who have already looked at the document that we sent out ahead of the event today, whether you printed it or are doing it digitally, this is the first step. So the first thing we're going to do before we even think about like making specific goals is starting with a mind map. So if you're not familiar with mind mapping, it's basically like a hierarchical information display. We'll show you an example in a couple of slides, but it's basically just sort of a free write. Free association, if you will, where you sort of organize thoughts and branch out as you think of them. So the point is not to editorialize yourself, to not limit yourself. Like the point of a free write or of a mind map is just to write down everything you can think of that is even tangentially related to the different categories that you want to focus on this year. So anything that comes to mind, write it out, even if it's not something that you'll end up actually doing. It's useful to know, oh, okay, apparently this is what I associate with mental health or whatever. Don't get overwhelmed because, again, it's going to look like a lot of stuff. You know, it's a mind map. It's going to sprawl. We're just ideating right now. This is not going to be, you know, everything on your mind map is what you must accomplish this year. Otherwise, you are a failure. That's not what we're going for at all. It's more just let's get it all out there. Let's see what's on our mind. You know, let's see what we're interested in doing, changing, accomplishing, and then we'll prioritize later. So this one's just a free write, basically. Also, don't revise. Don't worry about like, oh, that's dumb, or oh, maybe I don't want it. Just if you thought it, write it, and maybe something else will come off of it. So this is sort of the main structure of a mind map. So in the middle, you want to start with whatever it is that you're mind mapping about. So for most of us, it's going to be 2021. Like I just wrote 2021 in the middle of my mind map. But you know, whatever it is that you want to ideate around to figure out what your goals should be, that's your little center circle. Then you're going to maybe want a category for personal health. So that can include both mental and physical health. You know, mental health, taking breaks, taking care of yourself, you know, maybe going on vacation. That is definitely a mental health sort of a thing. Physical health, eating better, exercising more, things like that. Whatever it is around your personal health that you want your 2021 theoretically to look at, write those down. So I'm going a little fast. I just wanted to give some examples, but yeah, this is my mind map. It's not finished. I figured as we talked, I'd add stuff. Do you guys have anything in the personal health category that you want to share?
Yeah. So I was trying to keep things broad. Like I liked how you introduced the mind map, and then later on we're going to get more specific. So that's how I set up my goals this year too. And usually my personal health is like, okay, fitness goals is like Michelle Obama arms and be in shape to fight off fascists. And I was like, you know what, let's take it back a little bit. And so I really last year kind of threw me off my routine, not being able to like go to a gym because it's not safe right now. So I want to kind of get back into a routine, feel good inside and out. So that's physical and mental health. Feel strong again, because my fitness goals is never, it like throughout my youth, it was always like, oh, I need to erase myself as a woman. I need to be like a goal weight. But now I just want to be strong. Like I think strength to me is, and being healthy is more important than like an ideal goal weight. I say that now, and like in 2 days, I'll be like,
why aren't I skinnier?
A Pantene Pro-V commercial will like put me over the edge. And then I like using physical activities to de-stress, like that, being able to kind of sweat and get those endorphins going. And then also trying not to be so hard on myself if I fail in certain areas. So those are kind of my like high level, what I want my personal health to look like in 2021.
Cool. What about you, Kim? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I feel like I've been thinking about physical health a lot differently, especially since quarantine, and like what my body would do, or, the ways it would be engaged in activity just from walking and just leaving like the house it just makes such a big difference. And so I feel like now I've had to take things a little slower and think, what does health look like while you're at home and when you don't have kind of the same routine. And one thing that keeps coming up for me is sleep. I really notice that when I sleep just at a regular schedule, when I kind of set that routine, it's landing me at like an earlier wake up time. And then that feels like I have a slower start to the day and just a more intentional, it's just a domino effect, I feel like, of mindfulness. So I really want to get better at just like honoring what those physical health things and how they intersect with like the mental health. So I would say like sleep, going on more walks, taking vitamins. And I also just, for mental health, like want to start to build more around self-care as I can. And
yeah, that's a big thing for me too this year, is that I would pride myself for working 3 months in a row with no days off, even weekends, because, we're all creative women. We're all doing all sorts of side hustles. And that was super destructive. And I coughed for 3 months as a result of my immune system being so compromised by not sleeping and working too much. So I'm one of the things that I just wrote down off of mental health is take 2 full days off a month, which seems like not very much. But for me, that seems like an insane luxury.
I really like that. Yeah.
It's also like discipline of like, do not even like, it's a slippery slope to be like, okay, it's a day off, but I can respond to emails.
Yes.
Like as soon as you start, it's hard to pull back.
Exactly. And
then you're already mentally engaged. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I'm definitely a person who does that sort of stuff. All right. So let's, hopefully that has given everyone else some time to think about what they're wanting to at least ideate in that section. So let's move on to personal relationships. So that could be family, that could be friends, that could be romantic. So, things that branch off of that. Something that I wanted to put on mine is my fiance and I, though we've been quarantined together for 9 months at this point, and we spend literally every minute of the day together, we don't actually do that many activities together anymore. Because we can't go out to eat, we can't go like to movies together and stuff like that. But we do have a bunch of board games that we used to use for, when friends came over, but most of them can be played as 2-player games. And we like playing board games. We just, when there wasn't a big group, it seemed pointless. So one thing that he and I actually talked about as I was prepping for this workshop was we want to try to have at least one night a week where we play at least one board game together, because we have so many we love and we do like spending time together, but we really haven't been prioritizing it because we're literally together all the time. But we wanted to actually do an activity together and, do the things that we love and play the games that we enjoy. So that's one of my romantic, I guess, personal relationships goals, is to do more actual things versus taking for granted that he's always just going to be there.
Bri, that is my boyfriend's goal for me. Basically, like he's been like for his birthday asked for like multiple board games. So now I learned Catan on New Year's Day.
Settlers of Catan. That is my family's like favorite and least favorite game. Oh man, the tears we've cried over Settlers of Catan.
It's stressful. It's stressful. But yeah, I really like that. I did another like high level, like what I want all my relationships goal to be, and then like have the specific one. So for me, especially looking back at last year and kind of seeing how much your communication changes when you're stuck at home, like who are the friends that were more out of convenience because of like a project you were working on together in person, like a stage show, like stuff like that. So for me, I want to give more time to meaningful relationships and value that time instead of like, I am like the queen of acquaintances and not as many, like as I get older, like strong, significant, long lasting friendships. It is a thing I have like dealt with through all of like my moves and stuff. So so thinking about like those friendships I really value and the ones that are more reliable, and I want to do snail mail. I really like enjoyed writing letters last year, so that I was like, oh, that's a thing I can bring into this year as like a nice hobby and a way to continue connecting. And then on the romantic side, definitely doing more activities together outside of just eating and watching TV and movies, because that's been quarantine. And on the family side, I live, my family's in Jersey and I'm down in Austin. So it's hard. I haven't seen them in over a year because of the quarantine. So trying to do calls 1 to 2 times a month, like whether it's Zoom or phone call, because I can very easily like let that slip when I'm not traveling home to see them.
Yeah, also time passes so much more weirdly now, so it's harder to add that back into your routine. But yeah, that's really cool. Kim, anything you want to share here?
I mean, it's pretty similar, I'd say, in regards to myself and my boyfriend, just like having just more creative dates and kind of ideating on that, and not, like just, taking more action and just regarding like surprises and stuff like that. With my friends, I would say just like trying to connect better with them, following up more, and just trying to like mimic how communication would be like before, but just like not isolating, and like reaching out more to them for help as well, I would say generally.
That's a great one. Reaching out when you need something, I think, is something that all of us can be prioritizing this year.
Yeah, those were really my main ones.
Cool. All right, next category is personal development. And you'll all notice out in the audience that we haven't even talked about like writing our pilots and our screenplays, and we'll get to that. But the reason that we structured it this way is that we feel really strongly that so often, especially even amongst a pandemic, we all have a tendency to overwork ourselves and like glamorize the productivity and career goals over like feeling good in your body, having strong relationships with the people that you care about. And so that's why we're framing it this way, because these are the things you should be thinking about first. It's easy to say, I want to write 2 pilots, I want to get an agent, like all of those things. But it's hard to say, I'm going to take a day off that will not help my career at all, but will help my overall life. If like you should be prioritizing you. That is why we're doing this. So personal development, we consider things like hobbies, and very specifically, like not side hustles. Hobbies is different than side hustles. Hobbies are things that you do to enjoy yourself. So like playing board games. I'm not going to monetize playing board games with my fiance, but I enjoy playing them. I enjoy being competitive, but the only thing that I get out of it is I won the game and have some bragging rights. But there's no weirdness of like, now I need to Instagram story every move I made so that like I can sell an ebook of how to win at Settlers of Catan. Like that's not the point. The point is doing things that you enjoy just for the sake that you enjoy them. So that's hobbies. And also non-work education. Some people might want to either go back to school, go take some classes, just to learn things, all those like painting classes that people have been taking over quarantine, or like a place like Skillshare that has all sorts of instructors from around the world, things like that. That would be theoretically in the personal development of just, hey, what is my life outside of my work? And what do I care about in that area? And what do I want to explore more of, so that like there's actually stuff to do, so that, those of us that have busy brains can still do something, but it doesn't need to be like so high octane. If I can't monetize this, what's the point? Like sometimes, at least I have found it helpful to have literal things to do, so that when I'm bored, I don't just say, what if I started a new podcast?
Yeah. Also going off what you said before of like having all of like figuring out these other categories before we get to like career and job goals. This is something that's always been like shared with me by like many friends. Usually it's like a woman creator who has a million side hustles tells me this, but filling your cup before you fill others, because you can't do good work with an empty cup, essentially. And like, I remind myself that all the time when it comes to like self-care and stuff like this, like hobbies, things that like you're not thinking of turning into a web series. And I think I have to like reframe my mindset too. And I do things because like I did launch an Instagram live series that was around like I was interviewing people, but then I was doing an activity, and I just like didn't know how to just do the hobby without it being attached to a video project. But yeah, so I put it more into like, let me try to aim to learn a non-work skill and or read one new book a month. That's, I think, going to be hard for me because I like start multiple books at once, but I'm trying to have a little bit of discipline on in that area. Cause like I enjoy when I am reading a good book, but I'm just like, I'm always thinking like, I should be doing something relating to a work project so having not having guilt around spending that time, I think is important too.
Yeah, mine I put down is I want to start every day by reading, because like usually what I do is my alarm goes off and I look at Twitter. And let's be honest, everyone, Twitter is a wonderful website that can create so many amazing connections and can also destroy your brain from the inside out. So instead of doing that, I've just been opening up my e-reader to just read like sometimes not even a full chapter, just a couple of pages of whatever book I'm currently reading. And that's been like a really nice way to kind of, because it wakes me up better instead of just being like, I want to crawl back into bed. Like it gives me something to do, and it forces me to make progress on it, because otherwise I'm like you, Megan, where I'll start a book and I'll just like abandon it because there's so many other things to do. So I like that we're both on the same wavelength. Kim, what about you? What are your personal development goals or mind mapping ideas for this year?
Some things I put down were roller skating.
I love roller skating.
Oh, I love that.
I got roller skates pretty late in the game. I got them in October. But I'm really excited for once the weather just gets better for it to hit spring, to just start practicing and just get stronger and be able to like try to do tricks and stuff. I feel like it'll be a really fun, like measurable, not like challenging in a way that has nothing to do with anything else. Because I'm not going to become a professional roller skater, but it'll still be fun. Reading, I think this one's a tricky one because a lot of my hobbies, even if they're not monetized, they're sometimes supplementary education, or they end up helping me in something else. Like I enjoy doing graphics and mood boards and like trying to learn graphics, but that goes into film and goes into the light leak. So I would say with reading, I think trying to diversify what I'm reading off of reference manuals and how to, like I do a lot of reference manuals right now. I think it's easier for me during quarantine, but maybe trying to get back into fiction or trying something completely new like sci-fi, but kind of getting more exploratory with that. And then other hobbies I had were skincare and journaling. Skincare is pure vanity and just for myself, so it serves no one, and it's very indulgent and a little bit of luxury, so I like that.
So I want to put that down here too, because I have not figured out a skincare routine, and I'm about to move back to the desert, and I gotta get that shit under control.
Yeah, like that, like anything like hair or just, I don't know, I learned how to just have nicer nails in quarantine and just like take my vitamins more, and I just it was so stupid because it just meant nothing to anything else, but I was like had a nice sense of pride because I would look down at my hands and say like, oh, my hands look nice and neat and like they're a cute color or something. So things like that also pep up your day, I think.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think during quarantine we've all learned like how to slow down and do the things we weren't doing for ourselves before. Like I did not have a skincare routine. My mom would be so upset to learn that because she works for Estee Lauder. But like I did not have a good skincare routine down. And like I'm like, okay, turning 30, like I turned 31 in quarantine. Like there are things that I need to do. I can't just like let my body just like, get burnt out with all of the things that I'm doing. And not, like you said, the sleep is so important. I also learned like humidifier helps with skincare. Yes. And I'm like, because I have bad asthma often. Yes. Yeah. So like, there's all these things that like you never think about until you like now have the time to think about it. Cause I'm not commuting. I'm not going anywhere. So it's been nice. And like the things that give you joy, like just do it for yourself. Like I feel the same way. It's like when I paint my nails with glitter on them. It's like, why not? No one's going to see it.
Yeah.
But like, it's a nice thing for me that I can look at until it chips. And then I'm angry at myself.
Mm-hmm. So now we've had this lovely conversation about like how work is not everything. But here's the other dirty secret is that like, as someone who watches a lot of different content and has made a lot of different content, I can tell you there's nothing more tiring than yet another story about people wanting to be in the entertainment industry. And like, there are good versions of that story out there. However, if the only thing that is inspiring to you right now, because it's the only thing in your mind, is your own career, that's going to get old very quickly. And once you write your perfect La La Land script, that's it, you know? So developing your own interests and your own like cares outside of the industry does secretly help you with your career. So speaking of, let's talk about career jobs. There aren't any subcategories to this because obviously everyone's is going to be different. We've all kind of talked about ours, so I don't want to spend too much time more on mind maps. We do got to move on. But yeah, like all of this other stuff, personal relationships, like I cannot tell you the number of script ideas, dialogue ideas, character ideas I've gotten just from like getting back in touch with old friends, you know, like one of my friends was a neuropsych major in college, and I leaned on him a lot when I was writing, one of my web series, and that became like a really fun, really unique, specific part of it that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So like your life shouldn't be all about work, but the more that you have in your life that isn't work makes your work better. So keep that in mind as you are prioritizing next. And then the final two kind of spokes of, your mind map might be financial. So savings goals, work goals that are like not career style, but like I need to make X amount of money per month, to pay my rent, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, activism and public service. Are there things that you want to be doing more of, less of, things like that? So this is our complete sort of template for the mind map. Again, you might not have something for all of these things. Maybe you're aromantic, so you have no romantic things that you want to put in personal relationships. That's great. That's totally fine. It's more just to show you that like there are a lot of different aspects that go into your year, that go into your life and identity. So if you have something that you can think of in each of these different little categories, write it down. So anything from these last three spokes that you guys want to bring up, talk about before we move on to the next part of our goal setting workshop?
Nothing too pressing. I mean, yeah, I definitely filled out those areas and was like, I think in these areas, like the more specific you can get, especially around financial goals, because I took a workshop a couple of years ago when I had a lot more debt, and then like made a plan, like a kind of like long-term plan. It was like, this is the year I pay off debt. This is the year I do savings. And then this will be the year that I look into investing. So I think looking at it as not just a short-term thing, because like we all want financial independence. We all want to kind of, take down the rich folks that are like holding all the power and build our own generational wealth. So like thinking about financial as not just a like, because like I hate dealing with like I have to roll over my 401k at one point, like stuff like that you may not realize that it affects everything long term.
Yes, good reminder. Very good reminder. I got to do some stuff with that because I don't have one of those, but I've been told it's important.
Yes.
Good thought. Yeah, for me, I always try to make like a concrete savings goal each year, which like I'm pretty consistent about and has truly saved my ass so many times because, listen, we're all working in the entertainment industry. And I specifically have been working in the startup industry. And both of those industries are notoriously unstable. So at multiple points the past couple of years, like I've found myself through no fault of my own, just fully without income or without a significant portion of it, and having savings from previous years of just setting arbitrary, I think I can save $2,000 this year or something like that, has really gotten me through some hard times. So like, even if you can only put 20, 30 bucks a month into a savings account, trust me, like when you need that, when you just have a little bit of money saved to the side, when you are able to put savings away, like that has helped me so much in the future. Like past Bri is looking out for me.
Definitely. Yeah. That was a hard lesson I learned. Yes. Don't let anyone convince you that debt is good.
It is not.
They are trying to scam you. I have been almost scammed.
Kim, anything you wanted to add to these final sections?
No, not really. No, I think they're really great. I love how cohesive, like at least adding in activism and public services and just having that be its own bucket of planning. So that's been good. I've been ideating on that for a little bit.
Yeah. And cool. So let's move on to priorities. So like we've written a lot, we've talked about a lot, and even of the stuff that the three of us have talked about, I'm sure some of these things probably aren't going to be priorities just because like, hey, we're one person. It's going to be a hard year. So from your little map, so this is my progress. I'm not going to show you like super close up, but like there it is. It's all out there, chaotic and beautiful. So the next thing we're going to do is just sort of circle the items that you really want to focus on for this year, or even just for this workshop. So jot down line entries. So yeah, basically now we're just circling things. So in terms of like, if you need help figuring out, well, what should I circle? What should I prioritize this year? Remember, again, you're not gonna be able to focus on everything, not all at once. So it's worth acknowledging both concrete and aspirational goals. So like if you have a personal health goal that's like, eat better, that's aspirational, but that's not super concrete. So it's fine if that's something you want to focus on, and we'll work on making that more concrete later on in the workshop. But it doesn't mean that that's like a less valuable goal than, lose 10 pounds or whatever, which is that helpful to anyone? No, it's not. So nobody put like a weight amount down. We'd all need to take a step back from like how much 5 pounds really helps or hurts us and focus on the holistic, be healthier. That's just a little bit of extra advice for y'all. So other advice on prioritizing, think about areas that you're already doing well in. Just because you're doing pretty well doesn't mean that there's not still work you can be doing there versus areas you can improve in. So like for me, I have a really hard time setting routines, even though I know it's the only way for me to be successful. So I consistently set these like concrete goals, but that have no way of getting integrated into my existing routines, and then I just don't do them. So like those are things I need to improve on. So I'm really this year trying to focus on like, how can I build into a routine instead of just saying, no, you figure it out. You do what you're normally doing plus these other 8 things. So that's something I'm thinking of. Do not ignore the mental health area. There needs to be at least one thing in the mental health area, especially this year, that you're circling. And it might be a small, meditate every day. Find a meditation app that I like. Try yoga, things like that. But mental health is so important. And, like what Meghan said, the lovely cup metaphor, like you have to fill your cup first. Otherwise, you're going to have nothing to give and everything else in your life suffers. So please, please, please take care of yourselves, prioritize yourselves. You are valid. You are worth taking up space in your own life for God's sake. So please try to make sure that that's a priority on your list. And also remember, it's personal growth, not professional growth in every single part of your world. So, if you want to learn more about knitting, but you're not making a knitting movie, that's fine. Just take the knitting class, learn to knit. It's actually quite fun. And you can do it without looking once you get really good at it. And I really like that because it means I can watch TV shows that are trashy and don't really require a lot of brain dysfunction, but I can also be knitting at the same time. So that's just a little pro tip for me about knitting. So yeah, don't think like, well, if I'm going to prioritize things and I really want to make career gains, I should only focus on career stuff. Again, it's about balance. So, who knows? Maybe eventually you'll make a knitting film, or maybe eventually you'll make a knitted scarf for a friend or family member, and they'll treasure it forever and it'll keep them warm during a really hard time. So like, again, everything benefits something, even if it just benefits yourself. So don't under prioritize that. And also, yes, final acknowledgement, please keep in mind, we're in a global pandemic. You're probably not going to do as much this year as you would do in another year, and that's okay. You are not a failure as a result of that fact. All of us are struggling with it, even those of us like Kim Hoyos, who just seems super polished and, like she's got everything figured out. I'm sure Kim has had to do like maybe one less thing this year. And I'm sure that's probably frustrating. It was frustrating for me. So be kind to yourself. It is a pandemic. There is literally like a global horror show happening. DC is on fire right now. Sometimes you're not going to make as much progress as you thought you were going to, and that is okay. Give yourself permission to give up some things. Give yourself permission to say, I would like to do all of this, but realistically, to feel good in my body and my brain, I can only do this much. That's okay. That's okay.
Yes. all of the clapping emojis to that.
And here's a fun tweet to remind you, once again, be kind to yourself. This is the meme slide. So I'm going to give everybody a second in case they haven't circled everything. I should actually probably circle things. It's a great time to do that. Like skincare. That was a good thing. Because, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on. I can't handle it. Like that.
Yeah, it sounds like people are co-signing about savings, getting on your 401k.
Yeah, I saw someone like, you need to get a 401k. Like, okay, comments, fine, I'll do it.
Circling routine. Bhuvanesh, my buddy Bhuvanesh, who I volunteer with, he's in my activism public service bubble, shared a great article about finding time for creativity. Cool. Yoga download, workouts to meditations.
Cool.
Really great examples here of creativity and self-care that doesn't always have to connect to your job or career goals.
Totally. Yeah. And as we're going, guys, I haven't mentioned it yet, but please, if you have any questions, whether it's for one of us individually, for one of our companies individually, or just about what we're doing, please feel free to add those. And we're happy to take a step back and answer those questions. So if anyone has questions or has things that they want to share as they're filling this out, we would love to hear from you. So please feel free. This is a live event. Get involved.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the next step. So I think for the purposes of this workshop, just pick one of your priorities. So whatever it is that you circled on your mind map, pick one that you really want to sort of think about and make a statement on as we go through this. And we're going to do an exercise called Start, Stop, Continue, which I used to do for yearly reviews at one of my old companies. And that was actually the most productive year-end review and corporate review that I've ever done. So I'm really glad that Meghan mentioned that we needed to bring this back for this. So pick your routine. So everybody look at your list. What routine do I want to start with? Okay, I got one. You guys got one?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know, Meghan,
I have many. I know, let you guys go first, and then I'll just pick one that wasn't a category that wasn't shared.
Cool. All right. So one priority at a time. So the first thing is you're going to write start, or you're going to go to the section of your workbook that has the start, stop, continue. And after you've labeled, this is the priority I'm working on, starting is what are things you want to begin doing that you aren't currently doing in service of this goal. So whatever it is that your priority is, what are things that you're going to start doing in order to get ahead and get there.
While you're working on that, Carmen asked, how do we keep these goals on the top of your mind? Do you schedule them into your calendar? Lucky for you, Carmen, we have a whole section of this workshop at the end where we talk about accountability and tracking. So we'll get there. Face Mask Fridays. I love that. That's awesome. I want to start that too. I will purchase the face masks and then forget to use them. I purchased a whole election day self-care kit that I was as soon as I finish working the polls, I'm going to come home and take a bath and do all the things. And I didn't do all the things. So I'm got to get through that next step of actually doing it.
All right. Hang on.
And then Rihanna, we can drop the workbook link in the chat. They registered late, but you'll still get the workbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll send it out again. I think just as our wrap up email as well. Okay, so you might not be done. That's okay, but we want to move on. So the next thing you want to do is stop. So what are things that you're currently doing that aren't getting you closer to your goal? So what are things you want to stop doing?
I think this is a great point. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and the hosts, it was a screenwriting podcast, and they were talking about excuses for not finishing your pilots or any of your screenplays. And they just discussed identifying what you're doing to stop you from doing what you need to get done. And it just really made you kind of turn, the mirror on yourself to look at what your behavior is. So I think that this is a really interesting tool, just whenever you're defining your goals and things you want to start changing, what is my environment, and also what is my action in this? Am I purposely snoozing the alarm? Am I making this conscious decision to not want to try, or am I scared to try? So I really like the stop-start method, but it reminds me of that podcast from yesterday. I just want to share.
Yeah, this is one that I like need to actually take seriously, because I'm one of those people who like, I help develop workshops like this all the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, but do I really need to do it? Because I developed this method, so like whatever. And then I just don't. Like, I was having a conversation yesterday with friend of the Lunch&Learns, Christina Rea, about those like apps that stop you from going to certain websites, or like that control your internet usage. And I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I've always like really been judgmental about people who use those, because it sort of just seems like a lack of commitment to your own, mental fortitude. And I was like, but also I have zero self-control. So maybe my judgment is getting in the way of me actually benefiting from the reason that these things exist. It doesn't make you like, less strong-minded. It means you are physically being held accountable, because I know I won't be held accountable otherwise. I will go back to check my email when I'm supposed to be relaxing. I will check Twitter, even though I know the same thing is going to be happening on there that was 30 minutes ago. So, some of the things I need to stop is like being judgmental about what it means to do something if doing that thing would help me. Like that's a blocker that I have with a lot of things. Hashtag daddy issues. All right, continue. So the things that you want to continue are things that you are already doing, or that are going pretty well, that are that you're going to stay the course on for this goal. So, things that have been working, if personal health is something that you're using this as exercise for, what is already going well? Like, keep making that salad you really like, stuff like that. Like this is, both a reminder that you're already doing a good job, like a validation of, hey, you're alive, you're doing better than dead people are. So congratulations. But it's also an acknowledgement of like, how much work am I already putting into this that I want to continue putting into this, so that, you don't overwhelm yourself with things that you want to start when it turns out you're actually doing a pretty good job already. So that's what continue is for.
Yeah, I like to think of continue as my wake-up call to, what? I'm not just a flawed individual. There are some things I've been doing right.
I'm not just a pile of sentient trash.
You guys have to talk nicer to each other. I mean, to yourselves as well, mostly to yourselves. You can be positive.
Thank you for keeping us grounded, Kim.
Oh my God. I'm intruding on something here.
All right, cool. Any questions about stop, start, continue from anyone in the comments?
Not specifically around those. People are making some recommendations. There's a book, Tiny Habits, for implementing goals. Someone said they need to be off YouTube more. Just start that after this workshop ends.
All right, cool. So these are all pretty well laid out in the the workbook. So in the interest of time, I'm going to do the next slide. Oh, while you jot down yours, we'll share our own. Haha, I'm ahead of you, slideshow. Gotcha. Continue beating the slideshow. All right, so this is the final sort of like framework for setting goals. And again, you're not going to maybe use start, stop, continue on all of yours. Like, I have some goals that are like, just do the thing. But SMART is a good way of reminding yourself to not set goals that are just things that you want to accomplish with no bearing for how you will do that. So this is a good way of honing your goals down and making sure that they're actually accomplishable, and you're not just going to feel like a failure just because you didn't set it up the way that would set you up for success. SMART will set you up for success. So the way that SMART works is that you go through each goal. So maybe it's the one that you just did start, stop, continue with. Maybe it's one of the other priorities that you circled, and go through it with these metrics. So first, is your goal specific? Why this goal and not another goal? Who is involved in your success? If you want to shoot a new pilot, well, you're not the only one that's going to be there. There's actors, there's, hiring a director, hiring a DP, things like that. Like, other people may be involved in the success of this goal. And that's worth thinking about ahead of like just setting up, I want to shoot 8 new movies this year, things like that. If you don't have people to do that, maybe not specific enough. Also, what are the variables in achieving this goal? What are, is it you just want to finish writing a pilot? Is it you want to write a pilot that's polished that you feel good about submitting? Is it that you want to submit that pilot to a specific screenwriting thing? Whatever it is, specific is the first thing that your goals need to be in order for them to be genuinely achievable. So next is your goal measurable. What is the success metric? How will you know that you have completed this goal? Just saying, I want to be more successful. I want to be thinner. Whatever it is, I want to be healthier. Well, what does healthier mean? In what ways do you want to be healthier? How will you and others be able to tell that the goal has been completed? And what are the milestones or benchmarks along the way? So this is really important because in a lot of cases, goals aren't just you do one thing and you're done. Usually there's steps. If writing a pilot is on your goal list, which I assume it is for most people out there, I think all three of us up here have write a pilot on our goals list. But you don't just write a pilot. If you need to start with, the milestone is finishing the outline for the pilot. Maybe the next milestone is writing the first act, things like that. So know what it's going to take to do your goal. And then instead of just saying, write a pilot, and then every day that you haven't written your pilot feeling like a failure, what are the progress markers that you can make, that you can measure, that will get you to that ultimate goal? That's what measurable means. So if you don't have those milestones, it's not measurable yet. And therefore, it's not SMART. It's just SART. And nobody wants that. All right. A is attainable. Is your goal attainable? Is it realistic based on your existing resources, time, money, energy, location, etc.? So this is the sort of rubric for helping yourself prioritize, because I've written a lot of things on this, and boy howdy would I love to do all of them. But also I'm moving this year. I've got a lot of jobs and side hustles. I've got podcasts. I've got projects I'm working on with other people, et cetera, et cetera. So as much as I would love to, write 2 new pilots, write a screenplay, get my podcast to a certain number of downloads per week, things like that, it's not realistic for me to do all of those things. And that is just going to make me feel like I had an unproductive year if I put all of them down and then only do 3 of them, because realistically, because of my existing time resource, that's not going to happen. So make sure it's attainable. This is where you just got to get really honest with yourself. Am I putting this on the list because I actually think I can do this year? Or am I putting it on the list because I think that I will be a failure if I don't at least try for it? You can always do goals outside of your list, but the things that you want to define for yourself for this year should be attainable. And you need to be realistic with yourself about what it is that is going to be attainable this year.
Mm-hmm. This is where I'll say global pandemic, because
global pandemic, really, everyone.
Experiencing burnout in year 1 of the global pandemic really made me rethink how many things I put on my plate. And because you're not gonna finish this list of goals and then tomorrow be let me start on all of them. That's not realistic. So I've really learned to kind of space out what periods, what points in the year do I work on these specific goals, and when do I kind of retire some to focus on others. And it's fine to change your goals throughout the year. We'll talk about this in the later sections, that it's totally fine to change them. It's totally fine to put things on pause.
This is not a legal contract, y'all.
Yeah.
This is just
we are not lawyers. I did not go to law school. I did not go to Harvard Law.
Bri Castellini Esquire, so I don't know what you're talking about, Meghan. Okay, next part of SMART is relevant. Is this the first goal to achieve on your map or a future goal after achieving some closer ones? So relevant is more about I want to write on a TV show. Maybe that's one of the goals that you have written down, for your ideal life or whatever. And it's okay, well, you can't just become a writer on a TV show. Some people do, and they're white men, but everyone else will probably need to maybe finish a writing sample first, then maybe finish a spec sample first, then start submitting to perhaps either querying agents or submitting to screenwriting contests, things like that. So point being, the goal that you want to do should be relevant and attainable, measurable, specific, but it should be the goal that you can actually accomplish now, instead of far in the future. Buy a house is not something is something that I want, but it's not relevant right now, because in order to buy a house, I need to have a lot of savings. I need to pick a location that I'm going to be able to do my work from. My partner is going to need to be in a much more financially stable situation. There are all these different factors that go into it. So instead of making buy a house the goal for this year, the goal is going to be get my, save a certain amount of money that I can put aside for buying a house. That's kind of what relevant is meant to be. So Meghan, Make sure it's the next step, not the step in the future that then you're like, well, I didn't even get there. It's like, yeah, but you made progress. So think about that. And finally, time bound. And obviously, New Year's resolutions are inherently time bound too. I want to do this before the end of next year, but more specifically than that, by when would you like this goal accomplished? And what about the milestones? So like we were talking about with the measurable success, if writing a pilot is one of your goals, perhaps, you know, the way that you're going to time bound it is by the end of January, I want to have a complete outline. By the end of February, I want to have written at least the first scene and like break it out that way. So instead of just saying write a pilot and then feeling stressed out every day that you don't have a pilot written, like actually make a schedule for yourself and leave space for it to be adjusted. Don't like schedule yourself within an inch of your life so that like if you follow this exact goal every single day, by the end of the year, you'll have a pilot because like, hey, stuff happens. Maybe there's like a pandemic or something. Maybe there's insane civil unrest in Washington, D.C. right before you do a goal setting workshop. Things happen. And sometimes you're going to need to adjust. So give yourself the space to adjust, but make sure there is some kind of timeline for this, because if you make it too ethereal, you know, it's going to be hard to actually practically implement that into your life. There's a couple of comments.
Oh, I was going to say a couple of questions about comparing yourself to others. I know Mariana mentioned spending time on Instagram, looking at successful people. Carmen Vincent Films also mentioned, you know, how do you stop comparing yourself to others? This is something I deal with all the time. I'm in the comedy world, so it's very hard to watch some of my friends that I started out with in Improv 101 are now like writing for the shows that I'd love to write for. And one thing the way I look at it is like to be happy for them if they're your acquaintances, you know, if they're people that you actually know. If they're people that you don't know, you know, there are some people that I've reached out to be like, hey, how did you get your start? Like, and have like a Zoom coffee chat or whatever to be like, you know what, instead of just being jealous, because I will admit I'm a jealous person. I am a competitive person. I am a middle child. I'm a former athlete, high school athlete. And like, so I have all of the components, you know, in the entertainment industry to make me like, you know, overachieving, jealous person. Being able to release some of that energy and be like, I'm happy for that person. I want to work with that person. And reaching out and seeing how they got their start, if they have any tips or advice that you haven't received. Like not that they're going to give you the secret of like how they landed. Everyone has different ways in, different success stories, but like kind of like using that to kind of build up your own repertoire of like how you're going to do your career path in your own way. Like it may not be the same way they did it. But I think just like befriending those people that you want to work with one day is a healthier way in than just like watching them from afar on Instagram. Cause I am very guilty of that. I feel that hard.
Yeah, I think something that I have found helpful is because I'm also competitive. I'm not jealous, weirdly. Jealous isn't a thing that I get very often, but I am very competitive. It's like, oh shit, well now I have to make an award-winning feature documentary, you know, or something like that. And then like, so part of it, exactly. So part of it is like sitting down with yourself and being, am I jealous of the thing that this person did? Or am I jealous generally of their perceived success? Because one thing is that, you know, people sometimes email me because I'm in a lot of workshops and they're like, wow, you've done really well. And I'm like, I feel like I'm a fetus. I feel like I've done nothing. So the first thing to remind yourself is that everyone kind of feels like an imposter. So you're not alone in that. But the other thing is like, instead of just focusing on what everyone else is doing, take a step back and say, okay, I'm jealous of that person. Why am I jealous of them? Is it that I wish I had been on that project? Is it that I wish I had made that project in the first place? Is it that I wish I had a project that was doing as well? So whatever it is, figure out like the core of where the jealousy is coming from, and then do this workshop with it. Say, okay, this is what I'm jealous of. This is what I want. How do I get there? You know, what are the spokes of that mind map? You know, if it's like, go into a writer's room, things like that. Like, okay, well, what are the aspects of that? And, you know, what's the goal that I can do? And how can I hone that goal so that it's specific and I can work towards it? And like Meghan said, maybe you reach out and say, hey, congratulations on that. Do you mind if I like ask you some questions? Because that's something I would love to do eventually. And I would love to hear sort of your perspective on how all that came about. Like, people are willing to be so generous with their time if you just ask. So, instead of like just sitting, in your own like spoiled diaper and being upset at everyone else's success, which we have all done. We have all been guilty of that. Like, get specific with yourself about what it is that you're jealous of, and then reach out to ask for advice. And it doesn't have to be, hey, can I be on your show? It can just be, hey, how did you get on your show? Like, can you tell me what you were working on before that, and anything you've learned, things you wish you'd known before that, blah, blah, blah. Like, just be honest about why you're asking, and be honest with yourself about why you're feeling that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would add specifically, if you feel like you're comparing yourself a lot in regards to social media and seeing other folks' just like successes, I always try to just dissect for myself. Is this something that I am comparing myself to that even applies? Like, is this something I'm just seeing that I'm like, wow, that's a really cool thing. I wish I were doing something like that. And it has nothing to do with my field. And it's just, I want to seem like I'm doing something exciting and learning something new. How can I translate that to a hobby instead? But also in regards to social media and just doom scrolling, I've noticed that if I find myself wanting to go on Instagram, I think about specifically what I want to see, and then I try to go to Pinterest instead. Just if the goal is for me to see like nice home interiors, or that's something I want to look at, then I can have a direct browsing experience that I'm just like saving things to a board, which feels nice. And I think that if anyone has an issue with going on Twitter too often, it helped a lot when I deleted my account off the app, but then only had it logged in on my phone. So then it was just a harder user experience, or I had to go to my computer to use it fully. But overall, I think comparison, again, it's really tough, especially since we're all indoors. It's easier to think like, oh, well, they're able to do that in quarantine. I'm not. But, it really has to be a matter of what you feel that you can take on at any given moment, and how you feel that you want to be, leading your life, really. I mean, following someone else's goals isn't going to help you get closer to your own, or what your ideal life could look like.
That's a great point. I love that. And yeah, also mute people. If it would be too uncomfortable to unfollow, which is always my first step, mute them. So you're still following them, but you don't need to see that stuff. Like, there are people who I'm like, I'm so happy for you. I cannot keep looking at your really good life. And like, maybe it's Instagram curated, maybe it's all false, but it actively hurts my like general mental health to see you posting these things from like my dream life. So I just stopped looking. I can be happy for them, and I can, I make sure that like somebody else that I know is keeping me abreast of things. So it's like, if they get engaged, I am aware of that, and I can go to their profile particularly. But like, you are under no obligation to get that stuff directly to your face. If something is hurting you, if something is making you feel like lesser than, then unfollow. Nobody, they're not paying you to follow them. You do not owe them a social media follow.
You can control your social media feed. Yeah, exactly. I think that's really important. Whatever that looks like to you, you're able to control it, whether it's unfollowing more brands, following more friends, creating accounts specifically for a project or just personal use, and not having it be branded.
Totally.
It's just about making it work for you, for sure.
Lean into the good and lean away from the bad.
Yep. Leave the bad, take the good. That's the 2021 motto. All right. So now we're going to talk about accountability. So, we've gotten at least the starting point for your goals. Obviously, you're not going to come away from this workshop with like all of your goals figured out, but you've now got a workplace to do them in. So things that I like to use in terms of keeping myself accountable is creating a little tracking calendar. So like, this is an example of one that I made, a prettier version that Shay made for me, actually, of an accountability tracking tool that we've included in your workbook, which is, I just made a bunch of grids with days of the week and the goals that I had for like specific things. So last year I had a goal where I wanted to cook at least 3 times a week, because I had like really gotten out of the habit of it, but I love cooking, and I know that I'm healthier and I make healthier choices when I cook. So this was a way for me to just check off, all right, Tuesday I cooked. So now I only have 2 more for the rest of the week that I have to do to get to this thing. I wanted to be active a certain amount of time. I wanted to write a certain number of times. I wanted to take a break a certain amount of times. Actually, I didn't want to take a break. This is a new thing for this year. So we'll see if that helps. But this is just a good way of like, you just print one out, or you copy and paste paste it in your workbook and you just keep track. So that way, you know, if you're feeling down about your week, you can check your accountability calendar and say, I haven't been active in a while. Maybe that's why I'm feeling a little sluggish. Or, hey, I actually cooked a bunch this week. Maybe I did accomplish something this week. You know, I didn't get anything else done, but I have been fully accountable for the thing I wanted to do. So this is just a good way of like keeping track of how you're doing in a really visual way. And I like being able to physically check things off. My everything here is like check boxes and being able to cross things out. So that's helpful to me. And if that's helpful to you, this might be a good methodology.
Yeah.
Kim?
Oh, I was going to say, I use Notion. If anyone is already working on Notion, they have templates where you can fill out and use icons or anything and just be able to check off different days and stuff based on whatever you're trying to track. So I find that helpful.
Very cool. So the other thing that you can do is you can schedule check-in emails to yourself. So if you know that like, you know, you want to be done with your pilot outline by the end of January, as an example, schedule an email for yourself for the day before the end of January, so January 30th, and just have it pop up in your inbox from yourself saying, hey, did you finish that outline yet? So that can kind of remind you like, oh, right, I was going to do that. I have some time today. Maybe I'll work on that. So like that, you can schedule emails, I think, on any inbox in Gmail now. So just like schedule some reminders for yourself throughout the year that'll, you know, keep you accountable, especially if you have like concrete milestone dates that you want to be hitting. You know, send yourself an email a week ahead of time and be like, hey, remember, this is on your calendar. And that's just a good way of like, oh, right, because you're going to check your inbox possibly more than you're going to check your calendar if you're not somebody who really works out of like a calendar system. And that might just be a good way of reminding yourself, oh yeah, I want to do a thing. Also block off calendar space ahead of time. You know, if you do want to write more, don't just say, okay, I'll write more. Like say Saturday mornings, I'm going to write more, you know, like no matter what else is going on, nobody else can take this block of time. This is my time. That way, instead of just saying, oh, well, I actually have free time. It's like, no, I don't have free time. I have said that this 4-hour period, I'm doing nothing. This is my nothing time. I'm going to sit in the bed and be a human. That's it. That way, nobody can take it away from you. So in addition to the app, the program that Kim, you mentioned, we also recommend a couple of other apps if you're looking for something like that. Goal Streaks, TikTok, Tick, and Clear are good examples of accountability apps that you could use. And then in terms of additional accountability and tracking tools, obviously schedule regular self check-ins. So not just like emails to remind yourself, but actually set aside a time to be like, all right, this is my goal day. I'm going to look at how things are going. We recommend at least once every 3 months because, you know, times they are a-changing so quickly. And, you know, what was relevant in January might not be relevant in March anymore. So like regularly checking in with yourself is a good way of keeping yourself on track and not setting unrealistic goals that you don't actually want to deal with anymore because situations have changed. And then during these regular check-ins, we recommend that you go through literally each goal that you've set out by the end of this workshop. Do you still care about this goal? Do you still want to see it through? And it's okay if the answer is no. Like I had a goal last year and I've had it for like a couple of years where I'm like, make a new YouTube video every 3 months and, you know, at least 1 quarter. And I'm like, midway through last year, I was like, I hate making videos. I have 3 podcasts. I don't need this. But I kept it on there. And then I felt kind of like a failure by the end of my year when I was like, yep, didn't make any new YouTube videos. But if I had really sat down with myself midway through and been like, wait, why do I want to do this goal? It does not help me in any way. I don't like doing it. Why? Then I could have just crossed it off and I wouldn't have felt like a failure. Reevaluating your situation does not make you a failure. It just makes you a human being who lives in the world and is not, you know, held onto by arbitrary time deadlines. And also one way to kind of keep yourself honest about this and make it a little fun is maybe make it an event, you know, maybe get dressed up really dramatically, put on a full face of makeup, do your hair, wear a suit, whatever it is that makes you feel fancy, or alternatively, get the most comfortable you've ever been. Wear your favorite comfy pants, your big thick socks, you know, get a mug of hot tea or cocoa or something, you know, make your favorite meal or snack, drink your favorite drink, listen to your favorite music, set some mood lighting, like really make it an event, because then it's harder to like skip over. If it's just like, oh yeah, I need to check my email and look through some lists, like that's not very fun. But if it's like, ooh, on Saturday, I'm going to have a me day and I'm going to look at my goals, like, you know, and if you have something to look forward to, like I'm going to make my favorite curry dish on Saturday night so that I can eat it while I'm looking over my goals or things like that. Like it makes it harder to skip. So maybe you don't want to skip, and then you will be less likely to do so.
Don't stand yourself up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're both so excited about it because I feel like it's great to just make it something ceremonial and feel special to yourself, no matter what that definition is, because then I hate when people just have this fear of goals, and when I think it's such a productive, and I think it could be a really beneficial thing, especially when they're set right and when they're done intentionally and when you're thinking about yourself as a holistic person. So I really love the idea of like having a ceremony just to check in with your goals, check in with yourself. Where's my life right now? Does this ladder up to what I want to be doing and what my life looks like right now? So that's really good. Definitely do that one, guys. I'm going to do that one.
And if you have a friend, so if you live with somebody or if you just have a friend you can meet up with over Zoom, doing it with a buddy always makes that easier, because then you have no excuses. You don't want to let your friend down. You might want to let yourself down. You need to work on this year.
And your friends ask questions. They're like, but why, Kim? And I'm like, no excuse.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything in my life is made better when I just have one of my friends sit down and interrogate me for a little while about it. And then it's like, I either figure out that I definitely want to do this and this is how I'm going to, or what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
So if you have a person like that in your life, maybe get them in on it and have like a friend date where you both do this together and then just chat and, drink your coffee or whatever. And then also definitely lean on your community. So at the end of this, we are going to make sure that everyone who RSVP'd gets on a email list that we're going to send out 3, 6, and 9 month goal check-in reminders. So if you, forget to make check-ins with yourself, we will help you with that. So we'll be sending out emails to keep you accountable with further resources throughout the rest of the year. So definitely make sure that you RSVP'd on Eventbrite. And if you didn't, there will be a link both in the video description, if this is a video on demand you're watching, or in the video comments right now, where you can sign up to make sure you're definitely getting that email from us to stay accountable. And if you're looking for an accountability buddy right now and don't have someone else in mind, maybe exchange info with other people in the chat. We've had a number of people meet each other during workshops like these, and it's been so fun to watch people like develop friendships in the chat and then see them on social media later and then see them come back to the events, on other months. So like, lean on each other. This is the most wonderful community that you're ever going to come into. The combo of Seed&Spark, the Light Leaks community is just going to be so much fun. So, if you're looking for an accountability buddy, if you're looking for a writer's group pal, whatever it is that you're looking for, ask. And who knows, maybe somebody is looking for the exact same thing. And that's it. We're done. We're like a little bit over time, but like barely over time. So I think we did a great job. So if there are any other questions that people have or goals that you want to share with us, please, by all means, and definitely follow the Light Leaks everywhere that you can. Follow Seed&Spark. And for upcoming events, go to seedandspark.com/events. We add new events as often as we can. So if this was fun for you, definitely come back for that. But I'm going to take us just back to this. Hello, just us, just faces.
Just us.
Hello.
And just a note, this was recorded, so you'll be able to watch this after this ends and always reference it if you missed it. I know there was a lot going on during this, and I was I'm about to run into therapy after this, a conveniently scheduled therapy. So that's going to be interesting. I appreciate everyone joining us and sharing your tips and tricks along the way. Feel free to follow us on Instagram. Our tags at the bottom. You can also ask us questions on there too, since we went a little bit over, and I see some people are exchanging info, which is great. So thank you, Kim, for joining us. Thank you to the Light Leaks for being a wonderful partner.
Thank you so much for having me and for for giving me the space to talk a little bit about the Light Leaks. Definitely, if anyone's a female or non-binary filmmaker and interested in the Light Leaks, please check it out. We are starting to do some virtual events as well, and we have different opportunities for networking connections. So if that's something you need right now and in 2020, definitely hit us up.
Yeah, check if your goals match up with a lot of the resources they have. You guys have a lot of great blog posts and listings of how to
yes,
XYZ.
A lot of how-to guides, help guides, and we're expanding on that more. We're ideating how to do that on YouTube, and yeah, it's definitely going to be a really good year.
And thank you, Bri, for being our fearless goal workshop leader during probably the most challenging time to do a 1-hour goal workshop and stay optimistic.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous to check Twitter after this, but thanks so much for being here, everybody. This was so fun. And yeah, definitely reach out to us on social media. We would love to hear from you, even if it's just to send us pictures of your chaotic mind maps. I love seeing other people's handwritten chaos. Please feel free. I would love to see that. So thanks so much, everybody. And I guess we'll be seeing you later.
Bye. Have a good one. Stay safe, everybody.